So, I am going to be attending the Atlanta 2023 Steampunk Expo. Yay! There's one problem. When you go to an expo like this, you really need a costume. And I had one at one point, but this thing is absolutely trashed. Look at that. So when I made this in like early high school, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing when I made this. This thing is... The metal bits are good, but there's like a leather jacket I found. I just kind of sliced it up. And it is turning to dust. So, I have a little bit under a month to turn this into a half-decent steampunk costume. Now I do have another leather jacket I found. Unfortunately, it is way too short for my arms. This is the curse of being tall. So, need to start somewhere, and that will be with removing all of these bits from the jacket here. Also, I was younger when I made this, and this is actually now too small for my hand to fit through. Okay, I barely fit through it. With the bolt-in, I can't fit through it at all. So this was the main method I used when I made this. These are these nails. These little white kind of aluminum roofing nails. I took one of those and I'd put it through and I would cut off the end and then hammer it down flat, and it makes a rivet. And a lot of these are riveted on, but they pull out very easily, which was an issue. That's why it's so torn up, is because I tried riveting on a bunch of them. And these rivets, I actually use larger nails. I might have to snip those off or something. This whole section I might completely redo, because I like the shoulder bit. The shoulder bit's cool, but this part I'm not so sure about. Kind of looks weird. Kind of looks like a face. I don't know how much I like that. Also, another big thing is I want to add more stuff to this costume, because it, for high school, like, this was awesome. Like, you rock up to high school with this thing on, you're the coolest kid on Halloween, but at an actual steampunk expo, I don't think this is going to cut it. And this whole thing is, like, all these metal bits are from, like, a steamer, like an oven steamer that I took apart. This whole thing is basically just made with garbage, and I think that's neat. I think it's cool just to make things out of random things that you got laying around. Shows that you don't need fancy materials or tools or anything to make stuff, because I made this in this basement with just a hammer, a saw, and like a screwdriver. And that's that bit removed. Now this still kind of fits my shoulder fairly well. This is still about the right shape and size and everything for what I want. And there is the disgusting falling apart what once was a leather jacket. Ooh. Get as much of this off as I can. So messy. So I went to town and I found a leather jacket, but it's so nice that I don't want to cut it up. And so I've decided to pivot. Belts. So my basic idea is just gonna attach a belt to this and then I'm going to just wear it like that. That way I can put it on over any outfit, and hopefully it'll stay together a little bit better than the last one did. So right now, I'm attaching this on here with this white string. Just like a little temporary thing, because I don't want to, cut big holes in this belt and everything, and it turns out it doesn't fit. And I'm also probably going to be skipping over a whole bunch of stuff I do, because when I'm doing stuff like this and kind of messing around and things, it's a lot of trial and error. And I don't want to film, 20 minutes of me trying to mess around with a single bolt or something like that. Alright, so this is done. I got it all attached up there. I used some washers to make sure it wouldn't rip. I didn't really film any of me making the holes or stuff. It was kind of boring. Like I just kind of hammered this through it and then trimmed the edges with these, and that's really it. Yeah, we got the kind of shoulder bit there. I think it looks pretty good. Alright, so here we have kind of the general layout for the next thing that's going to go on my arm right under the shoulder bit. Now this looks really crazy, but this is going to be cut off. This is just for like stability, and this is going to be like that, but it doesn't really go that way. And I'm also going to have this gauge there, kind of in that position, and this is going to be kind of a steam generator looking thing. And the reason I want to do this is because this is going to connect to something kind of on my lower arm here, because I wanted kind of a loop of pipe to go from my upper arm to my lower arm, so there isn't nothing on my elbow, because most costumes like this, the elbow is kind of empty space, because it's hard to put something on a thing that bends, but hopefully it's gonna work. I have this spray paint. I'm gonna use this for little PVC pipe bits. And that's really it. I want to try to keep as much stuff in its original kind of material and color as possible, because I don't know, I just like doing that. Alright, so here it is, all kind of mocked up together. I think it looks pretty cool. Now I'm going to glue these pipe bits together, and I'm going to spray paint it tomorrow, because it is currently dark out. Alright, so I got these two pieces painted outside, obviously. Don't use spray paint inside. And I think they're looking pretty good. They're about the color I wanted them. And I think once they're in the thing, it's going to be way less noticeable that they're plastic. Alright, so I'm going to show how I do the whole rivet process thing. So I have these bits. I have the nails stuck through them. And then generally, what I do is tighten it down, take the saw, cut it off, and leaving a little bit of extra material. That's not good. Put it on the thing there, and now, and there you go. Rivet. My saw blade broke while I was cutting that nail. It was kind of crazy. I've had this saw for a while, and it's been the same blade that whole time. I'm surprised it hasn't broken earlier than that, honestly. But I'm just gonna try with these little snips, see if that's a bit better. Yeah, that works. So I got these attached. My plan with these is I'm gonna like bend them down to kind of match the curvature of my arm. That way it kind of ties in with the other part, because I think if it was just like a random box attached to my arm, it'd be weird. These bolts were kind of a pain to get through because I had to make the holes bigger, and a lot of these just have completely flat heads. So yeah, it was a real pain to get those in. Making the holes bigger, I actually like completely ruined this pair of snips I have. Pretty sure these are meant for plastic, not metal. It's not supposed to look like that. But, and I got the first belt on there like that. It's working pretty good. I get the second one on and kind of show how it looks on my arm. Alright, so the belts are all attached, and I cut them down because it's just going around my arm. I actually have my my tailcoat on right now because the arm is a bit wider than my actual arm, and I want to make sure when I poke the holes in this so I can put the belt through, it's going to line up right. So I got it on there, but it kept sliding down, and so I used this belt to attach it to the shoulder bit, but now that's sliding down. And so now I'm going to attach this belt to the shoulder bit, kind of up here, and hopefully it'll be a little bit more stable. Yeah, look at that. This little belt here is really what's holding this whole thing up. And that was putting too much weight on the shoulder, so I got this secondary belt, and I think it looks good. So while the arm part's gluing over there, I'm going to work on this. This is a really cool looking old drill that I just found at Goodwill, and the theme of the con is steampunks in space, so I'm going to turn this into a neat looking ray gun. Unfortunately, this thing weighs like 100 pounds. So I'm going to take it apart, take out all the guts to make it a bit lighter, then attach some of these on the front. Got this one and I got that one. Kind of make it a ray gun. You know this is old because it's all flathead screws holding it together. I don't know if I'm going to be able to actually get this apart with these flathead screws. Oh, that one's coming out. One screw. Oh, that's a long screw. You can tell this thing hasn't been taken apart before. It doesn't say on the label here when it was made, but it's definitely old. And now, ooh, that's pretty gross. That's all greasy. That's off. Oh. And now, this part, there's 3 screws there, and this little side plate comes off. I want to at least take the motor out of this thing. Just make it a little bit easier to carry around. There's that. Ooh, look at those cables. That'll burn your house down. Oh, dusty in there. That comes off apparently. There is the motor. I think a lot of this is just going to be shots of my elbow. Oh, that's all attached to the wires. Alright. I'm just gonna trim pretty much all of these wires. I do want to keep the trigger though. The trigger's very nice. Alright. And that comes out. There we go. This thing's already way lighter. Screw it. Snip. Stick that back into place. This back on. This thing's already way lighter. Wonder if I can. No, there's not much I can remove there. I do want to keep this chuck bit because that's what I'm going to attach all the new stuff to. Working in front of camera is quite difficult. Trying to remember to keep things in shot and all that. And there you go. Back in one piece, significantly lighter. Now I gotta clean all this up. So here's the end of the ray gun. So I have this bolt threaded into this, and then unfortunately the chuck at the end of the drill is just ever so slightly too small to fit this bolt or any size bolt that would thread into this. And so I took a screw and I cut the head off it. The screw is actually so stripped that I couldn't use it, so, you know, garbage. But I'm using this bit, and I glued it in there, and the glue is currently setting. And the glue I use is this Gorilla 2-part epoxy, and this stuff is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I glued metal to glass with this. Like, the two things that you can't glue, this just glued them together perfectly fine. So, highly recommend this. It's really serious stuff. That's looking pretty good. There's the ray gun. There's the arm on me. And now the final piece. So I wanted to use one of these like screen door cylinder things on my arm, but it was kind of heavy, and also I wanted it to be shorter. So I disassembled it, which I don't recommend you do because there's this massive spring in it, and it shot out of there. When I grabbed onto it, my hand got completely covered in grease, and it came off with some mineral spirits though, but now I gotta clean out the inside of this somehow. That's that all nice and shiny. Got new blades for my saw. Look at that black edgy. So this is that thing I cut in half. And I found this little cap thing that perfectly slides on. And I smashed a hole in it because we have this that's gonna fit in there. I also sanded this bit of the threads, so when this goes in here, it's nice and flush. There we go. Nice and flush. And then that's going to go on the end and just run down to the end of that thing. But that needs to go through this. So I marked out a few little dimples. You can kind of see them. And I'm going to just cut a slot out of this end because you're not going to see it. It's going to be covered with this. I did that. The problem was, so I originally, this is the side I cut the hole in, but that's the wrong side, so I had to cut a hole in the other side. And it just kind of messed everything up. It's all twisted and messed up looking. There's all these things from the vise. But when you put the thing on, you don't really notice. And it just looks kind of more generally beat up and not really messed up. Once it has that stuck on it, it's going to have one of these coming out of there. You know, you won't be able to tell. You won't even notice none of that. Oh. So this is all together. Really, it was just a pipe, this piece, and this bit, which I had to trim so it fit over the square piece there. Now I need to try it on and see if the wire can actually get into there. So I just tied this on my arm with like a shoelace. It's not actually going to look like this. I'm going to add armor bits like all these pieces, but I'm just making sure that the cable part can actually reach from there to there. So there's this big hole in the end there. And my idea is to take this bit that I took out of the drill and have this really cool looking fin thing there. Unfortunately, this is very, very heavy because of this part. And so what I think I'm going to have to do is saw through right there. Saw's probably not going to like that. So I cut this off, but while I was doing it, I was sawing, and suddenly the saw started going through really smoothly. And I'm like, huh, wonder what's happening. And so I pulled the saw out. There's no teeth. That just completely wore the teeth off of this thing. I've never seen something like that. So I got this together with, I made some more armor plate looking stuff. So that's how it's going on my arm. Right now I'm working on the holes for the belts, and it's proving a bit difficult. These cutters I got, they're actually not very sharp. They don't cut very well, but they do. I mostly just use them for gripping and bending. Yeah, there we go. You can't even tell that the hole is absolutely disgusting. And there it is. And that's those bits drying. So there's that on. Looks good. Only problem is this doesn't quite go in the end there. So what I'm going to do, put a 90 on that, so it'll be able to go into there. Then this whole thing will be done. So here's the 90 I'm going to use. It's a 90 that I chopped in half before, like I cut it down because it was really going to go here, but then I cut through the metal, so I didn't need it shortened like that. And I put this on the end because it just looks more interesting. This is quite the gluing setup. We got everything there. Cable goes down into the bottom of that. And then up here in the vise, we have this little top thing that I'm gluing on because I didn't want just a exposed shaft coming out of this. The little rag here keeps the vise marks off of this. It's not really clamping, it's just kind of holding it in place. So I thought I was done. I got home and I was just gonna like put on the full costume, right? But part of the full costume are these. These are spats. So they kind of go around a shoe like that, right? But I have freakishly large feet, so they don't quite fit right. And this part doesn't go down far enough, so it's like this. And when I try to walk, this goes up over my heel, like over the edge of my shoe. So what I'm going to do is take this little thread ripper and separate like this right here, just probably up to like there. So a funny thing about these spats, right? I ordered these, and when they arrived, the one of these buckles, this buckle right here was snapped off. You can see the lines there where I glued it back on. That was snapped off, and I was like, oh, that's fine, I can just glue it. But then they didn't fit over the boots I had, and so I contacted the company. It's this place called Historical Emporium, and I was like, hey, these don't fit, and they were broken. I was expecting like I had to send them back to return or whatever, and they just gave me a refund and said keep them. So I kind of feel bad about that. So I'm gonna put a link in the description to that place. They have some pretty neat stuff, and it's pretty high quality. I would recommend it, despite what I'm doing to it. Okay, they stay on, but like just barely. What I really want is it to be down there, but it's like up there, which is better than it was. Before it was like up here, which is out of the shoe. So I'm just gonna keep going with that. So these kept sliding up like this whenever I would try to walk, and I really don't want that to happen. And I tried doing this, tightening it down more, but it still slides up like that. And so my permanent solution is just to rivet it in place, and that's going to be on the inside against my foot, and hopefully it's flat and smooth enough I just won't feel it. Probably a bad plan, but cheap dress shoes, these are technically free. I'm willing to do it if it means I can actually use these. Look at that. That looks good. It worked. It sits on there. I can still take it on and off, and it doesn't hurt my foot, which is very good. Before, when it kept kind of riding up, it really hurt to walk, but now these are actually quite comfortable. So now I just need to replicate that and that on the other one. And I'm actually going to film this one because now I know what I'm doing. Probably. Nothing could possibly go wrong. So this is kind of sketchy. But this is the best way I've found to mark the hole where the rivet's going to be. I'm just going to I don't recommend you do this, but it does work. So that hammering on my foot just made this little divot, same as on the spats themselves. So now I have to turn that divot into a hole. I don't know if this vise manufacturer ever expected people to try to use shoes in this thing. It doesn't work that well. It's definitely gone through. There it is. There's that. Now I gotta do it all over again. And there's that. So I got those two done, but in the process, this rivet broke and popped off, so I'm currently gluing it. And hopefully tomorrow, I'll be able to wear the full outfit. I have like the base of the costume on, and I'm going to attempt to put the arm on all by myself. Because I'm gonna have to do this in the parking lot. Oh. There we go. It's there. That. Look at that. Oh, that's so cool. So I did my first little test of wearing this. I put it on, I walked around, I showed it off to some of my family on Zoom, and it broke. But this is a good thing. It broke in the best way possible, in a way that I can fix it and make it better. So if you look in there, you can see all the glue in there's all came off smoothly from this piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand this down to make it rough, do the same to in here, and then it's going to be way stronger bond. I'm back from the expo. I originally wanted to have this video out before the expo, but this broke off 2 days before I was going to leave. I was kind of scrambling to get it fixed. I sanded it and re-glued it like I showed. But I put these pipe clamps on it just to make sure, and it didn't break, which is really good. The only thing that I could say went wrong is that some of the paint kind of rubbed off of this bit. That's on the inside of my arm. You couldn't even see that. So honestly, I think that's fine. But yeah, it held together through the whole show. And I had an amazing time. It was really fun. And I have to say, if you're at all interested in steampunk, try to go to an expo. It's amazing finding people who are into the exact same weird thing that I'm into, you know. And I actually got a tintype of me in the outfit. It's really hard to film and take pictures of because of how shiny it is, but oh, there you can kind of see it. Look at that. This is the only good picture of myself I have that shows off the arm. I hope this video, well, first I hope that you enjoyed this video. And second, I hope that it inspires you to go build something, no matter what it is. You know, just take some random junk you have lying around, start putting it together, and you'll definitely have fun. I don't really know how to end these, so bye. Bye, I guess.